So we got a 2014 Yamaha YZ450F. I picked this thing up with the title. I actually got it in on a trade. So I had to trade two bikes to get this one. The first bike I had was a 98 Honda CR 250. So it's a two-stroke 250, a red and white one. I have a video on that too also. It was me fixing the cracked cylinder on it when I bought it. So I got it for a steal, of course. And then when I bought it, I did not notice the crack on the cylinder whenever I got it. So that's probably why it was so cheap. So I ended up getting that professionally welded. And it ran and everything. It just needed some fine tuning, and of course it's leaking coolant down the cylinder. So I ended up fixing that, putting a few parts on it, new cases, or not new cases, but new case covers, and a few extra parts on it. Ended up getting that bike running, and then I ended up trading that bike for a 2009 Kawasaki KX 250. So the guy that traded me on that one, I guess his dad used to have one, and he used to ride them a lot when he was a kid, and he wanted to get one, so he ended up trading me. You know, I wanted to get rid of the two-stroke and give me a four-stroke, and it was a 2009, so I was like, yeah, you know, I probably can't lose money on it. So I ended up taking that trade, and that one came with the paddle tire on the back. So ended up, that one didn't need no fixing on it. He just wanted a straight trade for me, and apparently that one was rebuilt. So I ended up having that for like a month. Posted up on Facebook, and then some guy, he had this bike, but it wasn't running at the time whenever he posted it. He was telling me that he just wanted a smaller bike because he was trail riding, and since this is a 450 fuel injected, this one has like power right from the get-go, like instant power. So he says it was too rowdy in the trails for a 450, so he wanted to get into a smaller bike, and he was wanting to trade for a 250. So my buddy sent me the listing, and I ended up offering my bike, my Kawasaki, and he was thinking about it for like a week or two. He ended up wanting to trade. So I was taking a gamble on this one. This one did not run. He said he was in the trails. He dropped the bike, and he said once he dropped it or kind of wrecked it, he said he kind of slid on it and just slid to the side and just kind of fell over. He said once that happened, it didn't want to start back up, and he'll just want to get rid of it. He had to get a 250. So I ended up going to meet the guy. You know, he liked my bike, and I liked his bike. He showed me that it ran when you put starter fluid to the filter. So I was like, hey, best case scenario would be the fuel filter or the fuel pump. And then when I got back home, I ended up removing the fuel pump out of the tank, and I ended up testing it with a pressure gauge, and it was not holding pressure. I forget how much PSI that I needed, but it wasn't holding pressure at all. I put power to it, and it'll bring up some pressure, and then it'll like slowly, gradually go down. And it's supposed to hold the pressure when you put power to it. So I was looking at the fuel pump, and there seemed to be no issues with it. But when I was looking up on forums, people were saying that check the pump rubber line, and the rubber line was actually cracked and leaking pressure out of the line. So I ended up replacing that fuel line on the pump, put it back in. Before I put it back in, I tested it out. It started hold pressure. So then I put it back in the bike, and the bike started right up. It was leaking a little bit of oil when I got it from the valve cover, and it was missing a bolt. And when this guy traded me, he threw in a whole extra pair, or a whole extra set of plastics. He threw in a whole bolt kit that he bought for it. So with the bolt kit that he had, I put an extra bolt inside the valve cover. That stopped leaking. And it was fine after that. I was riding around for a little bit. I stored it for a couple weeks. I got it back out. I tried to ride again. And as soon as I started it started to knock. There was a loud knock on the top end. And I was like, dang. What did I just get into? This is my first time actually getting in the tearing inside of a motor. And I was reading a bunch of stuff and looking at it, tore apart the valve cover, was inspecting it. And what I realized was the cam caps. But before I removed the valve cover, I changed the oil. I drained the oil, and there's a bunch of metal shavings inside of it. And when I did that, I was like, okay, let me just tear open the valve cover. And as soon as I popped the valve cover off, I noticed that the chain was loose. The cam chain was loose. And the cam caps had a bunch of wear on it from the chain being loose. And then I ended up ordering a new cam chain and a new tensioner, because that's what I was reading up on. People were saying that those go out. So I ended up getting a new OEM Honda chain and a new Honda OEM chain tensioner. And as you can see, looks brand new in there. The chain tensioner and brand new chain. So I ended up replacing that. As soon as I cranked it over, no more knocking, no more anything. So it's all good now. So this machine does run, but I would like to do one more oil change on it, just so I can get all of the metal shavings out from inside. So it does have a Renthal bar. What else? It's got a Yoshimura exhaust. It's got a bunch of Tusk parts, Tusk coolant hoses, Tusk kickstart lever, ARC Moose Racing levers. It's got the handlebar covers. So he was trail riding, like I said, so he added these on there whenever he put it on. So tires are pretty decent. We got a lot of meat on them still. Front tire looks pretty new actually. So yeah, I really didn't have to do much to this bike. All I had to do was, like I said, when I first got it, was just a fuel pump, that fuel line. That's all I had to do. Put that back in and it started right up. And then a few weeks after that, the chain started making noise, started clacking around on the top end. And that's when I tore it apart, or tore the top off, and then put the new chain tensioner. So it has been sitting for a little bit. Haven't really been riding it. As you can see, it's really dusty. See, it's super dusty, man. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a quick wash. And see how she looks after the wash. So we got her all washed up. Like I said, it was just really dusty for me not riding it. So like I said, I got it a couple months ago and I just haven't been riding. Ever since picking up these quads, I have to be riding the quads. Saw my buddy have quads, but I'm going to bust this thing out. So like I said, I did some work on it when I bought it. That's kind of a gamble right there. The dude was saying it was a fuel pump, which it was a fuel pump, but it was just part of the fuel pump, so it wasn't the actual fuel pump. It was just the fuel line that busted and leaking out pressure. And I believe it was leaking out pressure because this gas cap, this gas cap has no vent tube, so I feel like there's no way to relieve pressure off that line. So I just feel like the pressure just bursted out through the fuel line. So I do need to get a new fuel cap that has the pressure line. What else? I was saying I needed a new oil change, because I don't have a filter for that. It's not to order one of those up. I want to do the oil change because I just want to get all the metal particles out of there. I don't want to start it up just yet, just because I want to do that. And then whenever I did the chain and chain tensioner, I got a new air filter, which is right under here. That was full of dirt and red mud, super dirty. The guy rides trails around here, and I'm in Oklahoma, so it's Oklahoma red dirt, and it was just caked full of mud. I couldn't really clean it, so I just got a new filter that's already on there and oiled up. And what I did notice too, whenever it was running, is there's a little screen, this right here. This is like a little drain screen. It's kind of like a plug, like a drain plug with the screen on it. After a while, that starts leaking. So I'm gonna have to get me a new O-ring that is on there. So either a new screen plug or just an O-ring. So I have to order one of those up. Order up the oil filter. Give me some new oil. And then we'll go ahead and give it its first start. Or first recent start. So yeah, y'all go ahead and stay tuned. This thing runs really good. This is my first fuel injected bike. All the other ones were carbureted. And this one runs really good, man. I just hated to see, whenever I heard that noise from the top end, I was like, man. I was talking to my buddy about it. He was like, man, it's gotta be the chain. So I tore it open, and surely it was. Luckily, the caps were just all scraped up really bad. There's so much metal shavings in the oil. When I drained it, it was pretty bad. And the filter had a bunch of shavings in it too. So I'm ordering me up a high flow filter, new oil, and an O-ring for the plug. So yeah, y'all stay tuned.